Hello, hello. Welcome to AMAZE Live. I'm your host, Christine Coe, and I'm so thrilled to be here with Julianna Miner today. Hello, Julianna.
Hello.
I, well, we were just catching up before we hopped into the official room, and I feel like you and I have so much more to download on. But today, I'm so grateful for you for taking out the time because your book, Raising a Screen Smart Kid, Embrace the Good and Avoid the Bad in the Digital Age. Oh, I wish I should have grabbed my copy from my stack. My bad.
No,
It
no worries.
is
Got it right
it
here.
is like one of my favorite parenting and tech books because you have all sorts of nerdy science-based, research-based stuff, and then also just like the funny, relatable voice of a mom, a parent like who's been in it and doing it. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for joining today. And I would love if, as people start to join in, if you could just also tell a little bit about yourself and like how you came to write this book.
Sure. So a lot of people online know me as Rants from Mommyland. So I started that blog in 2009 and have been, writing on the internet and running social media accounts now for what seems like a very long time. And I really have like a love-hate relationship with the internet, I think the way a lot of people do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also been a source of income for me. And I I can't live without it. I'm on it every day, and it's changed my life. It's given me professional opportunities. I'm also, well, my day job was for many years an adjunct professor of public health at George Mason
Yeah.
University in Virginia, and I have a long, career behind me in public health at the state and local levels. And I love public health. I love the internet and social media. And then I have 3 kids. And it's one of those things where you think you know what you're doing, and you think that before your kids get to the age where they're like, hey, can I have Snapchat? You have a sense of how you're able to manage it. And then that time hit me, and I realized that I was uniquely qualified to know how to handle this, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was really fortunate. I was able to do a lot of research. In my role as an adjunct, I had access to just a lot of studies and data, and I wanted to be really, evidence based in how I came to my decisions as a parent and how I shared those decisions with other people. Because I think a lot of people are coming from a place of fear or anxiety about what's going to happen with their kids, and when should it happen, and how young is too young. And I wanted to come to a decision based on what we knew so
Yeah.
far, evidence told us, and kind of go from there. So that's why I wrote
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful. And also because, straight up you acknowledge this reality that a lot of kids are getting their smartphones when they're experiencing some major developmental changes and, puberty and emotional development and all the challenges associated with that. Obviously, that's a huge part of what we talk about at AMAZE and try to share resources on. So I'm just so thrilled to talk to you today. So one thing I wanted to start up with straight away, last week AMAZE released a new video called Social Media and Self-Image. And also for those joining the chat, I will link up everything, Juliana's website, her book, the
I have
videos
a
we're talking
couple
about.
of resources too, links.
Oh, fabulous. That's
Yeah.
great. Yes. So we'll just pop all that in the comments afterwards. But we released this new video on social media and self-image. Obviously, the impact of social on teens has been in the news. But one thing I love about, because obviously you work on the internet, I work on the internet's not going anywhere. You addressed in your book this idea of using social media to enhance connection with like the people you already know versus sort of just following strangers and celebrities. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the latter as a predictor of loneliness and depression, because I think that's a really important part of this story.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, the book was researched and written. It was published in 2019. It was researched and written like 2017, 2018. Please excuse my idiot dogs, if you see them, who will not stop. I'm so sorry
we
that you will.
love we love dogs. We're pro dogs. This
I
is this is what live world is like, and we're here for it. So
So much of the data and the findings are done sort of pre what we know now, right? Which is social media having this big tobacco moment in light of the whistleblower talking about the relationship between like self-esteem and depression, especially in girls on Instagram. So I think that what you're referencing in the book is several studies that linked social comparison. So unfavorable social comparison between one's own life, one's own appearance, and what they see on social media. And that is enhanced when the people that you follow are influencers or celebrities for a couple of reasons. One, because if it's their job to be beautiful and attractive and share things about their lives that are really aspirational, right? It's going to be very difficult to compare your real life to that and not find it, diminished. Also, the relationship between the kid and the influencer or the celebrity is not necessarily social, but it does feel parasocial to the kid, right? So, and I think it's hard for people who aren't really steeped in internet culture to understand that connection that kids have with the people that they follow on the internet. Like it's not like me having very strong feelings for members of Duran Duran when I was in middle school. They didn't know who I was. I mean,
Are you sure? I mean, who knows? Like,
I mean, it was pretend, but it was serious pretend. But with kids now, I mean, they could be following a YouTuber or someone on TikTok that has a fairly small audience, and their belief that their engagement with the content, their likes, their shares, their DMs, have a tangible impact on that influencer's or content creator's success, means that they're more invested in that relationship, and they're not wrong. Like and the degree to which the content creator is perhaps engaging back, like liking a comment or responding to a DM, even if it's just like sending a thanks, and that community that surrounds it is really meaningful. It is a substitute, though, for actual real social interaction that leads to, those developmental milestones that we're hoping kids make at that age, right? Because that's a functional process of moving through adolescence, is gaining those social skills and acquiring that social experience, good ones and bad ones. So all of those things combined with social media's very clear trend toward making us feel as if we need affirmation and feedback on the things that we share or the things that we engage with. So that unfavorable social comparison combined with that feedback and affirmation cycle, particularly in young women, has been shown to have poorer outcomes in terms of well-being, loneliness, depression, image, etc. The data is old, but it is, I think, in fact, validated by the things that we're seeing now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely going to link up that recent video release from last week on social media and self-image, because I think it's a really cute way to show, like, and brief, to really show like this sort of curated, what you're seeing is curated, and like the little twist at the end is really cute too.
When you know someone in person and they're just posting highlights, you have context, right? Like, oh, Susie's dress is beautiful and she's going on vacation, blah, blah, blah. But you also know, like, Susie gets zits and has bad hair days. You see them at school. So you have the context where you can, take a more realistic approach to how you view the material, but that context isn't available when you're just seeing stuff online.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so, in advance of knowing we were having this conversation today, I put a little call out for questions, and because I know you have lots of answers. And I wanted to talk about online gaming, because I know you and I in different conversations have talked about this. You have kind of leaned in, I think, to trying to understand this world that kids are in, and which I think is awesome, because I have a little less like patience and understand. It kind of just goes right over my head. So one of the questions that we received was somebody wanted you to address time spent on games, smartphone game apps, online games, and how to handle obsessions with particular games like Minecraft or Terraria, the latter of which I've never even heard of. So that's like a good...
Familiar with that last one. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I think video games in some ways get a bad rap. I mean, the data is pretty clear that most Americans play games online. So you might see something like Candy Crush or Words with Friends, or even the New York Times Spelling Bee. Those are games. Those are online games. If you play them, if you're doing crossword puzzles, you're gaming. Now, is that the same thing as someone who hops on Fortnite and plays for 11 hours straight? Probably not. I think there's a misperception among older folks that gaming is this sort of solitary pursuit, whereby you just hunker down in a basement in dirty sweatpants and become increasingly isolated as you engage only with the machine. And then it slowly takes over your brain. Not entirely untrue. However, the majority of games on gaming systems and PCs that are the most popular and the most widely played are all multiplayer, and increasingly multiplayer and cross-platform, which means that an inherent draw of the game is the social interaction and the social nature of play that takes place within the game. So kids are meeting and fulfilling that need for social interaction through gaming, first of all. And I think that's important to note. It's not necessarily a solitary pursuit.
Yeah.
Are there lessons and valuable things that can be learned from gaming? Absolutely. And I can link you to a resource where I talk about that in a Life Hacker article. And it can be, we can see these things happening in games like the Lego games. Are you familiar with them? Like the Lego Star Wars and Lego Harry Potter games. They're great. And they've been around for a long time. And younger kids will be playing those. Fortnite, all of the other games, like there's lessons to be learned, strategic thinking, problem solving on the fly. For a lot of those younger games, when you're collecting coins or resources, like there's lessons to be learned about resource allocation, how you spend them. There are examples of spatial thinking and situational awareness, and all of those things are real and they're all taking place. And one of the lessons from video games that I think can be the most valuable is this idea that there's no expectation that you're supposed to get it right the first time, right? Like it normalizes failure as a learning process, right? That you are supposed to fail to become a better player. Like they give you 3 lives for a reason, right? Like that's what we're familiar with, right? When we would go to the arcade or play Donkey Kong when we were kids, you weren't expected to get it right the first time. You had to play through multiple times to figure out where you made mistakes and self-correct. And I think that if we narrate that and make that explicit in gameplay, that failure is a functional part of getting better, that we can do our kids a real service in terms of, like normalizing the experience of making mistakes and learning from them and using them. Yeah.
I was just going to say my mind is blown because I'm definitely a embrace, Jessica Lahey-ish gifts of failure type situation. And I never really thought about games like that. And that's, that's certainly Christy Miller-Mahoney is jumping in to say a great reminder of the positives of gaming. We have another comment here, Claire Goss. I love watching my 3 kids play Minecraft together. They're bizarrely collaborative in a way that I don't often see in real life. And, I will say, obviously, I think the sort of gaming element and the importance of that obviously kind of ramped up during the pandemic. And my 10-year-old was very into Roblox. I actually don't even know if she's still into it. I have no idea, but I think she is. But they were doing things like hosting virtual birthday party rooms for people. There was like a whole thing. And so I think it did broaden my understanding, but I love if you could definitely share those sort of life skill perspective on gaming resources, that would be awesome. And what do you say to parents when they ask about time limits? Because I know that's a big concern.
I'm in favor of time limits. And I think that the time limits are more important the more engaging the content is, whether it's TikTok or Fortnite or Minecraft. I mean, everything is fun and there's lessons to be learned from it and benefits to be drawn from it. But one thing that the data about tech use and social media use in particular that's very consistent is that the people who use it moderately and mindfully get benefit from it. It adds value to their life. The people, and when I say mindfulness, I don't want that to come across in like a smug, elitist way, like I'm very mindful and I meditate. Like I can't meditate at all. But what I mean when I say mindfulness is that it's used with a purpose.
Yeah.
Like you have a purpose for using it. Like I'm going to go game for an hour because I had a terrible day and I'm going to play through a couple levels and have some fun and distract myself and then just, use it to decompress. Or I'm going to use TikTok because I want to learn how to decorate a cake or something, and or whatever. So the problem is that it's super engaging, and it's really hard for kids, especially like young, still baking brains, to disconnect from a preferred task that's highly stimulating to something else that's less stimulating and less desirable, like bedtime or homework, right? We're asking, I mean, it's not dissimilar to a little kid.
Fine.
That's minor. So it's like asking a little kid to leave the playground before they're ready.
Yeah.
They're not gonna respond well to that. So you figure out how you need to structure that coming down off of park time in a way that is realistic and works for your family, right? So it could be you give 5-minute warnings. It could be you're like, you get in the car, you get some fruit snacks, right? It can be the same thing with setting time limits. I mean, ideally, you want to sort of help your kid figure out a way to do that for themselves, right? As a part of like teaching them how to self-regulate. So I know for myself, I'm not a huge TikTok person, but every time I get on the app, I have to set a timer because I once spent like 2.5 hours watching cleaning videos, and I had no awareness that much time had passed. Like, I don't care about cleaning at all. Like, come to my house. The truth of that statement is all around. But I just couldn't, it kept feeding it to me, and I kept watching it. So I am very clear about that with my family. Like, if I'm going to watch TikTok, I have to set a timer because I am able to manage that by myself. So I think for those things that your kids have a hard time disconnecting from, use technology to help you manage technology in terms of setting timers. For younger kids, you can use like egg timers. So there's like a visual representation of time ticking down. But yeah, like I'm a big proponent of using time limits.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's excellent to, I mean, hello, you're also modeling like that, even as an adult, like we need to regulate these things. And that's an important part of figuring out how to, engage with all of these different platforms. I would be remiss if I didn't say that if you have questions for Julianna, please drop them in the comments. StreamYard is working just as it should, so I can see them here if they come up. And yes, so drop those in the comments, drop an emoji, whatever you would like to share. And also, if you're coming to this broadcast later, which we have a lot of people who do come later, drop your comments. I know how to find Julianna, and I can get your questions answered. Isn't that a promise? Okay, so I got a bunch of questions about safety that came in for you. And so here are two related ones. The first one was, how do I teach safely searching for things on the internet without finding or accidentally searching the wrong phrases? Obviously, that's going to happen. Like, is there some kind of avoidance of high risk search terms for younger kids? Who knows? And this was a question specifically related to YouTube. And then the second one, is also about YouTube. And the comment was, the recommended videos that come up when you watch YouTube get really weird really fast. Yeah. I'm considering saying no to YouTube, just bottom line. So, and they continue to comment, I think in general, I worry about anything where an algorithm is controlling the content because you can't just unfollow. So what are some good practices you would have in these situations? So it's both search and then the recommendations that come up.
Well, I would say, first of all, that hesitation that the parent has about allowing their kid access to something where the algorithm is providing information and content to them is a very rational response to the reality that you are not in control and your child is not in control of what's being given to them. And if that is a concern, then keep your kid off TikTok, because that's what the For You page is about. And that is 90% of the content that kids consume when they're on TikTok. So I'm going to start with the search issue. That is an awesome question. How can you teach your kid to never put anything into a search that could potentially yield inappropriate or alarming results? And to the best of my knowledge, there's really no way. The best thing that you can do, particularly if your kid is younger, is to put any safe search or equivalent of safe search on whatever browser you're using, and to put down as many parental restrictions on both the search functions of if it's search within YouTube, then make sure that you're using YouTube Kids, make sure your parental restrictions are in, that you're in restricted mode, only because there's nothing foolproof. I mean, I have told this story before. In fourth grade in Virginia, where my children went to elementary school, you were asked to do a project about like your ethnic heritage, your ancestry. And so my ancestors are from Lithuania, and my daughter wanted to print out a picture of like Lithuanian folk dancers with the braids and the outfits and the poles and everything, and to put on her poster board. And I was like, okay, cool. She's on my laptop. She Google image searches Lithuanian dancer.
Oh dear. Yeah. Which accurate and seemingly innocuous. Yeah.
She's like, Mommy, what's this? And I was like, those are boobs, sweetie.
Mm-hmm.
That Lena has an OnlyFans. And now we know that. Maybe if she had done Lithuanian folk dancing, it would have gotten a different result. And I had restrictions on my computer and on my phone because my kids use my computer and my phone. We still got a bad result. You can come across inappropriate material anywhere and every time. And YouTube is a really great example of that. I mean, they launched YouTube Kids specifically to create and provide a safe environment for their younger users. And we have all read the horrifying content that manages to slip through. So, I mean, I think it's important to have conversations with your kids about using safe search terms, but I also think it's really impossible to say that there's some like playbook that we can use that's going to prevent this from ever happening. I don't think that's possible. So I would again say restricted mode, safe search, all that stuff, especially with younger kids. And as far as using YouTube, if you need, and occasionally we all need our kids to be able to watch content so we can do stuff, right? Yeah. I would suggest taking the AI out of it and creating a playlist of content that you know they like. So they're not getting fed anything. Like just take that out. Or download series of videos and have them just watch the videos that you have queued up for them. If you know that you're going to need 45 minutes to an hour when you're in the car, then put an hour and a half on there. And if they want to scoot through videos that they've seen before, they can. I mean, that's my best suggestion because there is nothing foolproof. Yeah. And I don't want to tell people there is because I don't think there is.
Yeah, well, and this brings up obviously the point that, I mean, the one thing that we can control is the conversations that we have with our kids. And so I think I'll link up in the context of porn and stumbling on porn, we have some great graphics that we've shared about how like it's normal. Well, one, it's normal to be curious about it, but it's also inevitable. You're going to type something in, stumble on something. So it's better to get in front of that by having those honest, just open, really practical conversations with your kids before something happens. And certainly because my 10-year-old Violet, she loves YouTube and obviously is looking at, videos on how to play games and things like that. We've had multiple conversations where we've said, things can get kind of weird on this platform. So like, if you see something weird, like, come get us, like, we need to talk about it. And so I think the more you just normalize that, I mean, that's the one thing we can get ahead of, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the best defense that you have, that kids have, is communication and kind of skill building with their parents. And I think conversation that you had with Violet is super important. And I would add that an important part of that would be like, you're not going to be in trouble.
Yes.
I'm not going to take away your device. I'm not going to take away your access.
Yes.
So many kids, the ones that I spoke to researching for the book and a lot of the sort of survey data that's out there talking with young people, they don't tell their parents when they come across something disturbing or when something kind of messed up happens in their life online because they don't want to get in trouble. The bottom line is I encounter stuff that I don't want to see all the time and I'm not looking for it. I'm not. It finds me. Also because, we get in the mindset where we're like, click, 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 click. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what am I looking at? I don't want to look at this.
Yeah.
And how can we expect our kids not to have that same experience, even when we take precautions? And so I think it's important to make sure your kids know that they're not going to get in trouble if they come to you. And they're not going to, you have to use it as an opportunity to tell them, like, I trust that you're not going to get put in these bad situations, but I also trust you're going to tell me about it so I can help you. I think that's really important because we want to create an environment where they feel like they can come to us.
Yeah. I just want to toss up a quick comment from Holly who says, mentor, don't monitor. Yes, indeed.
I put a plug right there for Devorah Heitner because monitoring is like a big part of what she teaches parents, and her content on kids and tech and screens so good. And so she was one of the resources I was going to share. And
good, because you're queuing that up perfectly, because I'm going to reach out to her and ask her. It was already like on my to-do list to reach out to her and see if I could have her join for a conversation, because yes, she also has so many smart things to say on
Oh my gosh, she's brilliant. And a big part of how she works with parents is around that mentoring and not monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes. I was also just going to just say that, like, whenever, because we've been talking about dogs today and we've had some dogs visit the broadcast, that whenever the running joke between my husband and I is that if something gross is happening with the dog, that because dogs are monsters, that happens. I'm like, can I Google it on your phone? Because I don't want to mess up the search on my phone.
Yeah.
Reality. Well,
real gross.
Julianna, we only have a couple minutes left, so I just wanted to see if there's anything crucial. It's been a couple of years since your book came out, or like anything crucial that you want to communicate before we finish up. Stuff that's top of mind based on what kids are experiencing these days. I'd love, if you have anything that any burning topic that you want to address.
I think TikTok is kind of where most kids are gravitating right now. That platform has seen tremendous growth in the past 18 months. It's poised to overtake Snapchat as the most popular and most widely used social media app among American kids and teens. About 70% of US teenagers have it and use it. And I think it's really important, if you are not on TikTok, that you get on it if your kids are on it. I think a lot of people let their kids get TikTok accounts during the pandemic because everybody was on it. It's what our kids were being like, please, please, please. And I think my perception was that it was fairly wholesome, right? Like, people were doing family dances, and I think TikTok is super fun, and it's so engaging, but it is something parents need to be super aware of, because the content the kids are engaging with is generally coming through their For You page, which means that, the secret sauce of TikTok is their algorithm, is their AI algorithm, which is super specific and super personalized. You can think about dogs and it's going to show you dog videos. And generally, whereas on other social media platforms, you're engaging with content that you curate, right? So I'm seeing stuff from people I know or people I've chosen. That is not the case with TikTok. TikTok works best when you allow the algorithm to give you the options for viewing.
So I've never been on TikTok. So are you putting in your preferences for the types of content you like, or is it just trolling your behavior?
At first you might choose things that you like when you're opening your account, but really it's looking at how you interact with the content that it's showing you.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you browse at something, or you hesitate and linger on something, if you watch something twice, if you indicate preferences from people that you followed, it's the algorithm is magical. It will really, if it clicks right, if it hits right, it provides a very enjoyable, super engaging experience. If it goes dark side, or if it hits wrong, then I think that I know, and it has done that for me on a couple of occasions where I've clicked to look into a trend that I'm supposed to be researching that's negative, and then I get fed a bunch of negative content. But it's when we talk about parasocial engagement, and when we talk about the impact that we have on kids when they're following accounts that aren't necessarily people that they're familiar with, that is very much in play with TikTok. The engagement on TikTok is 4 to 5 times higher than any other social media platform. So, as someone who works in social media, a lot of the money, the marketing and branding dollars are now going towards TikTok. And for good reason, because those influencers are able to engage and connect with their content in a way that content creators are not doing on other platforms. And it's really interesting and meaningful for kids, but it's also giving them the opportunity to watch 200 15 to 30 second videos on a single topic in a single day, right? It could be about dogs, or creating, or do I have ADHD, right? So they're acquiring this huge amount of information from different perspectives in one subject area very quickly. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating, but it's really important to keep an eye on like how it works, what your kid is interacting with. Like I say get on there and try and and interact with the same content that your kid is so that you see what they're seeing.
So
Check the
interesting.
For You page. And if somebody, if you are teach your kid that if they're shown something that they don't like or makes them feel uncomfortable, that they can touch it and long pause on it and hit like, no, thank you. And it will steer them away from that. So it is possible for them to control the algorithm rather than the algorithm continuing to feed them stuff.
Got it.
And move them.
All right. Well, I know what I'm going to be doing this afternoon then. So, Julianna, thank you so much for giving us your time. We loved meeting your dogs. Please, I will drop a link for Raising a Screen Smart Kid. It's an amazing book. I recommend everybody get it. And yes, if you have questions or you're coming to the broadcast later, just drop them in the comments and we will get them answered for you. Thanks, everybody.